How profoundly has drug addiction taken hold of Hollywood's biggest stars? For many, it's more than just a habit. It's a destructive journey that shatters careers and drags them into a relentless spiral of despair, from overdoses to public meltdowns seen by millions. In today's video, we'll explore the 20 worst addicts in Hollywood history stars who once ruled the screen, but are now haunted by uncontrollable addictions in ways you wouldn't believe. Join me as we step into the dark world behind the spotlight. Comment 1 if today's story resonated with you, or 0 if you see it differently. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them with us below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next, where we'll uncover every hidden secret behind this story. Aaron Carter's rise to fame was rapid and dazzling. As a teen pop star, he found success with hits like I Want Candy. But with that fame came intense pressure that led him down a perilous path in his early 20s. Addiction soon overshadowed his life. He battled a mix of drugs, opiates, Xanax, and alcohol that severely impacted his mental and physical health in full public view. His addiction showed in erratic behavior, slurred speech, and several legal troubles. Carter's career took a nosedive because of his addiction, and his personal life was just as chaotic. He regularly made tabloid headlines for outbursts, arrests, and public altercations. His gaunt appearance revealed the harsh toll addiction had exacted, and fans who once adored the lively teen now watched a man spiraling beyond control. Carter was candid about his struggles, sharing openly on talk shows and social media about his addiction. Yet even these efforts were often followed by relapses. Despite multiple rehab stays, Aaron Carter kept fighting his demons. His addiction became a relentless cycle that impacted not only his career, but also his relationships with family and friends. Tragically, on November 5, 2022, Carter passed away. While the cause of death was initially unclear, it was later ruled an accidental drowning after he inhaled difluoroethane and took alprazolam. Chris Farley was a comedic powerhouse whose bold humor and vibrant personality made him a cherished icon in entertainment. Yet behind the laughs and high energy, Farley wrestled with substance abuse, a battle that ultimately ended in tragedy. His struggles with drugs and alcohol were well known, often played out in the public eye, reflecting the wild excess that mirrored his characters on Saturday Night Live. Cocaine was Farley's drug of choice, but he also frequently abused heroin and alcohol. As his fame skyrocketed in the mid-1990s, his addiction spiraled out of control. Despite multiple rehab attempts, each stay ended in relapse. His self-destructive lifestyle took a heavy toll on his health and strained his professional relationships. Directors and producers grew frustrated as his weight increased, and his behavior grew more unpredictable, making him harder to work with. On set, there were times when Farley appeared visibly impaired, revealing that his struggles went far beyond the typical pressures of Hollywood. His untimely death at 33 eerily echoed that of his idol John Belushi, who also died from a drug overdose in March 1982. Farley was found dead in his Chicago apartment on December 18, 1997, from an accidental overdose of a cocaine and morphine mixture. Robin Williams was a powerhouse renowned for his lightning-fast wit and electrifying performances that could brighten any room. While he brought laughter and joy to millions behind the scenes, he wrestled with addiction. Early in his career, Williams was a heavy cocaine user, a habit that started in the 1970s and stretched into the early 1980s. His drug use peaked during his peak fame on Mork and Mindy, a time when he appeared untouchable to the outside world. Like Chris Farley, the 1982 drug overdose death of John Belushi was a wake-up call for Williams. That tragedy, along with the birth of his son, motivated him to quit cocaine and alcohol. For many years, Williams stayed sober. However, his struggle with addiction wasn't completely behind him. In the early 2000s, he relapsed and resumed drinking, which led him back to rehab in 2006. Despite his comedic genius and larger-than-life presence, Williams battled the heavy internal struggles of addiction and depression, making his journey deeply complex. Although he stayed clear of hard drugs for many years, his ongoing fight with mental health challenges weighed heavily on him. In 2014, the world was stunned by his sudden passing. While his death was ruled a suicide, the impact of addiction on his life remains undeniable. Dennis Hopper's impact on Hollywood is undeniable, but his battle with addiction is just as notorious. The actor and director, famous for classics like Easy Rider and Apocalypse Now, endured a dark chapter in the 1970s and 80s when drugs consumed his life. Hopper struggled with multiple substances, cocaine, alcohol, marijuana, that deeply affected both his career and personal world. His drug abuse became so severe, it triggered erratic behavior on and off substances, leading him at one point to isolate himself in Taos, New Mexico, seeking refuge from Hollywood's turmoil. Hopper's addiction escalated to the point where he reportedly used as much as 3 grams of cocaine, daily fueling erratic behavior and a self-destructive lifestyle. This nearly derailed his career as he became increasingly unreliable and tough to collaborate with. At times, Hopper vanished for days on drug binges, causing major delays on film sets. His unpredictable behavior made studios unwilling to insure him, resulting in fewer acting opportunities. Despite this decline, Hopper sought help and achieved sobriety in the late 1980s. After entering rehab, he staged a remarkable comeback, becoming clean and revitalizing his career. His role in Blue Velvet marked the start of a new chapter, though the lasting scars of addiction were still visible. Robert Downey Jr. Today, Robert Downey Jr. stands as one of Hollywood's most celebrated actors, famed for his legendary portrayal of Iron Man. Yet there was a time when his career and life seemed on the brink of collapse due to his struggle with addiction. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Downey Jr. battled severe substance abuse using a dangerous mix of heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. His drug use began early, influenced by his father, who also struggled with addiction. As he got older, drugs increasingly took control of his life. His addiction resulted in multiple arrests and clashes with the law. At one point, Downey Jr. was incarcerated for drug-related charges, bringing his career to a halt. His personal life suffered too marked by broken relationships and estrangement from many in Hollywood. For years, he seemed like a lost cause, an actor who might never escape the depths of addiction. However, Downey Jr. staged one of the most remarkable comebacks in Hollywood history. After several rehab stays, he achieved sobriety in 2003 and slowly rebuilt his career. His portrayal of Tony Stark in the Iron Man franchise launched him back to stardom, proving that recovery is possible even from the darkest places. Charlie Sheen has long been a notorious figure in Hollywood, with his off-screen antics often stealing the spotlight from his acting. At the peak of his career, Sheen earned millions for his role on 2.5 Men. But behind the scenes, he was fighting a severe addiction. Cocaine and alcohol were his drugs of choice, and his dependence quickly spiraled out of control. Sheen's behavior became increasingly erratic, culminating in bizarre interviews where he claimed to possess tiger blood and insisted he was winning even as his life unraveled. The scale of his drug use was staggering. He admitted to spending tens of thousands of dollars on drugs and alcohol with his reckless lifestyle, widely covered by the media. His addiction resulted in serious health problems, including multiple hospitalizations and near-fatal incidents. There were even reports of Sheen isolating himself in his home for days, surrounded by drugs and alcohol in a perilous downward spiral. His addiction ultimately cost him his role on 2.5 Men, one of the highest-paid spots on television at the time. Despite it all, Sheen's battle with addiction remained a public spectacle. He made multiple attempts at sobriety, entering and leaving rehab facilities, yet the struggle persisted. Lindsay Lohan's rise to fame seemed like a Hollywood fairy tale. A child star with undeniable talent, she was known for roles in films like The Parent Trap and Mean Girls. But as she grew older, her life took a darker path, becoming marked by scandal and addiction. Her struggles with drugs and alcohol began in her teens, and by her 20s, her battles were widely publicized. Cocaine and alcohol became her drugs of choice, and she was often spotted partying late into the night at clubs. Lohan's addiction led to numerous legal troubles. She faced multiple arrests for driving under the influence and drug possession, with her repeated rehab stays turning into public spectacles. Her behavior grew increasingly unpredictable, marked by missed workdays, erratic outbursts, and a noticeable decline in both her physical and mental health. As her addiction deepened, Lohan's once promising career began to unravel. She lost major film roles and became better known for her off-screen struggles than her acting abilities. Her acting talent faded from the spotlight as the public watched Lohan spiral out of control, struggling to maintain sobriety despite countless attempts. Her battle with addiction serves as a cautionary tale about how swiftly fame can turn into a nightmare. Though she has made multiple efforts to recover, her journey remains a challenging one. Demi Lovato's rise to fame was swift, starting as a child star on Barney and Friends, and later becoming a Disney Channel sensation. But behind the scenes, her life was far from perfect. Growing up in the spotlight, Lovato faced intense pressure from an early age. By her teens, she had developed a dangerous dependence on drugs and alcohol. Her struggles extended beyond addiction. She also fought eating disorders, self-harm, and mental health challenges, including bipolar disorder. Her cocaine addiction in particular became well known after she openly admitted to using the drug during her hectic work schedule, sometimes even sneaking it onto airplanes. Demi Lovato's struggle with addiction grew more intense over time, and despite several rehab attempts, staying sober remained a constant battle. In 2018, her fight took a terrifying turn when she nearly lost her life to an opioid overdose at her Los Angeles home. The overdose left her critically ill, suffering multiple strokes, brain injury, and life-threatening complications. This moment deeply impacted fans and the entertainment world alike. If you want to follow more powerful stories of stars like Demi Lovato, overcoming addiction, stories of pain, courage, and hope, don't forget to like and subscribe. Before her overdose, Demi Lovato had openly shared her recovery journey many times, revealing how deep her addiction ran, despite seeming progress and success. Since that life-threatening incident, she's been honest about her continued struggle with addiction. Though she has faced relapses and returned to rehab multiple times, Demi has consistently used her voice to raise awareness about mental health and the vital importance of asking for help. Courtney Love has long been a standout figure in the music and entertainment industry, recognized for her raw talent and rebellious spirit. As the frontwoman of the band Hole and the widow of Nirvana's Kurt Cobain, Love's time in the spotlight has been anything but ordinary. However, much of her career has been overshadowed by an ongoing struggle with addiction. Love has openly acknowledged using a range of substances, including heroin, cocaine, and prescription drugs, frequently in excess. Her drug use started in the 1980s, and she has battled addiction intermittently ever since. The turmoil caused by Love's addiction has often unfolded in the public eye. Her outbursts, unpredictable actions, and erratic interviews have made frequent tabloid headlines, and her personal life has often appeared chaotic. Her addiction put a significant strain on her relationships, especially with her daughter Frances Bean Cobain, who was temporarily estranged from her due to Love's substance abuse. The death of her husband, Kurt Cobain, in 1994 deepened her struggles with addiction, and for years, Love fought to stay sober. Despite these challenges, she has worked to remain a prominent figure in rock music, though her career has been anything but smooth. Her addiction has resulted in numerous legal issues, health scares, and multiple stints in rehab. Heath Ledger's tragic death in 2008 shocked the world and exposed the darker side of Hollywood's fast-paced lifestyle. Known for his roles in Brokeback Mountain and The Dark Knight, Ledger wasn't publicly associated with wild partying or drug abuse. Yet behind closed doors, he was grappling with a growing dependence on prescription medications. The pressures of fame, combined with the physical and mental toll of demanding roles, led him down a dangerous path of self-medication. His substance use centered mostly on prescription drugs, including painkillers, sleeping pills, and anti-anxiety medication. Battling insomnia for years, the mix of these powerful drugs ultimately proved fatal. Ledger's reliance on these medications grew especially during the filming of The Dark Knight, a role that greatly impacted his well-being. Friends and colleagues voiced concerns about his health, but Ledger's struggle to cope with physical and emotional pain pushed him deeper into addiction. In January 2008, he was found dead in his New York City apartment from an accidental overdose of prescription drugs. His death was a devastating loss for Hollywood and fans alike, who saw him as a rising star with boundless potential. Amy Winehouse was a powerhouse vocalist, celebrated for her soulful music and unique style. Yet her immense talent was shadowed by a devastating battle with drug and alcohol addiction. Her struggles became a major part of her public image, frequently spotlighted by the media. Winehouse's heavy use of cocaine, heroin, and other substances took a serious toll on her health. Her addiction was so intense that it often eclipsed her music career, with performances becoming unpredictable and sometimes incoherent. The severity of Winehouse's alcohol and drug addiction was clear in her frail appearance and erratic behavior. She was frequently photographed stumbling out of bars, a visible testament to years of substance abuse. Her addiction took a heavy toll on her relationships with family, friends, and bandmates who tried repeatedly to support her, often without success. Her public struggles culminated in a disastrous 2011 tour where she was seen slurring her words and unable to perform, leaving fans heartbroken and deeply worried about her health. Despite her incredible talent and numerous awards, Winehouse was never able to break free from the hold of addiction. In July 2011, she was discovered dead in her London home from alcohol poisoning, marking a heartbreaking end to a bright career. Her music still inspires many, but her struggle with addiction remains a haunting chapter of her legacy. Janis Joplin was a powerhouse in the music scene, celebrated for her raw vocal strength and magnetic stage presence. As a key icon of the 1960s counterculture, she embodied the rebellious, free-spirited energy that defined the decade. Sadly, that lifestyle also involved heavy drug use, with heroin soon becoming Joplin's drug of choice. Heroin and alcohol fueled Joplin's creativity, but they also inflicted serious damage on her physical and mental health. As her career reached new heights, her addiction became more visible. While her performances remained legendary off-stage, she struggled with her inner demons. Known for her wild behavior, her drug use eventually became a defining part of her public image. Behind the scenes, however, Joplin's addiction was destroying her. Her heroin dependence left her isolated and emotionally fragile. Despite efforts to get clean, she struggled with repeated relapses. In October 1970, at just 27 years old, Joplin's life tragically ended when she was found dead in her hotel room from a heroin overdose. Her passing shocked the world and cemented her place in the notorious 27 Club, a group of legendary musicians who died at that age. Though addiction shaped much of her life, Joplin's extraordinary talent and impact on music remain celebrated to this day. Judy Garland will always be remembered for her legendary role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, but her real-life story was far from the magical tale fans believed. Garland's struggle with addiction started in childhood, shaped by the intense demands of the Hollywood studio system at MGM. To keep her energized through grueling filming schedules, the studio gave her amphetamines, followed by barbiturates to help her sleep once the day ended. This harmful cycle of stimulants and depressants triggered a lifelong fight with substance abuse. As Garland got older, her drug dependency intensified. She faced severe episodes of depression and anxiety worsened by her addiction. Her personal life also took a hit, marked by several failed marriages and ongoing financial struggles that added to her pressure. Despite her challenges, Garland kept delivering stunning performances. But behind the scenes, she was gradually falling apart. Her unpredictable behavior on set grew more common, and her health deteriorated due to substance abuse. Like Monroe, Garland's addiction ended tragically in 1969 when she was found dead from an accidental barbiturate overdose at her London home at just 47. Her passing closed a chapter on a life marked by extraordinary talent and deep sadness. Garland's story remains one of the most heart-rending reminders of how fame's pressures and Hollywood's exploitation of young stars can fuel a lifelong struggle with addiction. Elvis Presley, the undisputed king of rock and roll, was a groundbreaking artist who transformed music and became a worldwide legend. But as his fame skyrocketed, so did his reliance on prescription drugs. During the 1960s and 1970s, Presley's life became increasingly consumed by addiction to sedatives, painkillers, and amphetamines. Originally prescribed to address health problems, these medications soon turned into a lifeline as he struggled to manage the pressures of his career and the weight of fame. By the time Elvis hit his 40s, his addiction had taken a serious toll on both his physical and mental health. He experienced significant weight gain, mood swings, and his iconic stage presence started to fade. While his drug use remained a closely kept secret for much of his career, those nearest to him understood the depth of his struggles. Despite mounting health issues, Presley kept performing often, depending on a mix of medications to power through exhausting tour schedules. In August 1977, Elvis Presley's life ended suddenly and tragically when he was found dead at his Graceland mansion at just 42 years old. While the official cause of death was a heart attack, it's widely understood that drugs played a major role in his passing. She was one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, celebrated for her talent, beauty, and tragic story. Yet behind the glamorous public image, Monroe's personal life was filled with struggles. The intense pressures of fame, along with a string of failed relationships and deep insecurities, pushed her into a difficult battle with addiction. By the late 1950s, Monroe had become heavily reliant on prescription drugs, especially sedatives, to manage her sleep and mounting anxiety. As her addiction deepened, it started to impact her professional life. She grew increasingly unreliable on set, often showing up late or missing shoots entirely, and her unpredictable behavior created friction with directors and fellow actors. Monroe's drug dependence also took a heavy toll on her mental health as she battled depression and an overwhelming sense of isolation. Despite her unforgettable roles in films like Some Like It Hot and The 7-Year Itch, her personal life was unraveling, and addiction only deepened her loneliness. In August 1962, Monroe was found dead at home from a barbiturate overdose. Her passing shocked the world and cemented her legacy as one of Hollywood's most tragic icons. Though her addiction was well known in the industry, her death sparked greater awareness about the widespread problem of substance abuse in Hollywood. Drew Barrymore's story is one of strength and recovery, though it started in the darkest corners of Hollywood's underbelly. Born into the legendary Barrymore acting family, Drew was thrust into the spotlight at a very young age. By 7, she was a household name thanks to her role in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. But early fame came with intense pressure, and Barrymore was pulled into the Hollywood party scene before she even hit her teens. By 9, she was regularly drinking alcohol, and by 12, she had moved on to cocaine and... Life quickly spiraled out of control. Drew's drug use became widely known, earning her the label of Hollywood's wild child. Her addiction was serious enough that she entered rehab for the first time at just 13. But recovery wasn't easy. She relapsed multiple times and even attempted suicide at 14. These weren't mere teenage rebellions, but signs of deep emotional pain and the heavy toll fame took on her young life. While tabloid headlines exposed her struggles, few truly saw the immense pain she carried beneath the surface. Despite battling addiction from such a young age, Drew Barrymore's story doesn't end in tragedy. At 15, after another stay in rehab, she chose to take control of her life. She made a deliberate decision to step away from the toxic environment she grew up in and started rebuilding her career from scratch. Over the years, Drew has become a powerful symbol of recovery and resilience, reinventing herself as a successful actress, producer, and businesswoman. Anna Nicole Smith was a larger-than-life figure who captivated the public with her stunning beauty and undeniable charm from her early days as a Playboy model to her reign as a reality TV star. While her life played out in the spotlight behind the glamorous facade, Smith struggled with a serious prescription drug addiction. Her growing dependence on painkillers and sedatives became clear as her public behavior grew increasingly erratic. The pressures of fame, along with personal tragedies, only deepened her reliance on these substances. Smith's struggle with addiction intensified after the sudden death of her son Daniel in 2006. His loss devastated her, pushing her deeper into depression and leading her to rely heavily on medication to manage her overwhelming grief. Her dependence on prescription drugs grew more evident with public appearances, often marked by slurred speech and unpredictable behavior. Despite efforts to stay composed, those close to Smith could see she was struggling to hold her life together. In February 2007, Nicole Smith was found dead in a hotel room at just 39, the result of an accidental prescription drug overdose. Her death, coming only months after her son's loss, marked the final chapter of a life filled with incredible highs and heartbreaking lows. Despite her larger-than-life image, addiction was a battle she ultimately couldn't win. Which Hollywood story shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. John Belushi was a wild, unpredictable genius whose legendary comedy still resonates today. Famous for his work on Saturday Night Live and movies like Animal House, he was more than just a comedian, he was a whirlwind of energy. Yet behind that larger-than-life persona, driven by the pressure to always be the life of the party, lay a much darker reality. Belushi battled addiction deeply and sadly. That struggle became a well-known part of who he was. As his fame soared, so did his drug use. He gained a reputation for a hard-partying lifestyle, frequently using substances like cocaine and heroin. At first, these drugs appeared to boost his wild energy on screen, enhancing his unforgettable performances. Unforgettable. But beneath those intense performances and wild comedy, Belushi's health and personal life were unraveling. His friends and family grew increasingly worried about his behavior, but no one could stop him. He was caught in a cycle where drugs fueled his work and his success pushed him to party even harder. In March 1982, John Belushi's life tragically ended when he was found dead at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Los Angeles at just 33. His death was ruled an accidental overdose of heroin and cocaine, a lethal mix known as a speedball. Belushi's passing sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Brad Renfro rose to fame at a young age, much like Drew Barrymore. As a child actor, Renfro starred in films such as The Client and Apt Pupil, earning critical praise for his performances. His raw talent hinted at a promising and enduring career in Hollywood. However, like many young stars before him, Renfro struggled to handle the pressures of fame. He started experimenting with drugs and alcohol early on, and his addiction rapidly worsened as he entered his late teens. What had been a promising career was derailed by his substance abuse. Renfro's heroin and drug addiction became public, and his behavior grew increasingly erratic. He faced multiple arrests for drug-related charges, including heroin possession. Renfro's legal troubles and ongoing battle with addiction made it hard for him to find work in Hollywood, and his health declined as substance abuse continued. Despite several rehab attempts, his addiction was too strong to conquer, and his promising future in entertainment began to fade. In January 2008, Brad Renfro was found dead at just 25 from a heroin overdose. His death shocked many, but for those close to him, it was a heartbreaking inevitability. Renfro's life ended before he could reach his full potential, serving as a painful reminder of how addiction can destroy lives. River Phoenix wasn't just a rising star, he was the defining actor of his generation. A prodigy with a unique mix of talent, depth, and sensitivity, he seemed destined for greatness on the big screen. But on October 31st, 1993, at just 23 years old, his story took a tragic turn. Outside the Viper Room, a Hollywood nightclub partly owned by Johnny Depp Phoenix collapsed from a fatal drug overdose right in front of his brother Joaquin Phoenix. The loss was sudden, shocking, and deeply heartbreaking. This was the actor behind unforgettable roles in My Own Private Idaho and Running on Empty. Hailed as the next Brando or Dean Phoenix, was a raw, powerful talent that felt almost otherworldly. And then just like that, he was gone. Years later, Joaquin Phoenix paid tribute to his brother in a heartfelt way by naming his son River, ensuring his legacy and spirit live on. Though his career was short, River Phoenix remains a legend of unrealized potential, and Hollywood continues to mourn his loss. Philip Seymour Hoffman was celebrated as one of the greatest actors of his generation, delivering unforgettable performances in films like Capote the Master and Doubt. His talent earned him widespread acclaim and cemented his place as a true master of his craft. Yet behind the scenes, Hoffman was privately battling addiction, a struggle that began in his youth and, despite years of sobriety, ultimately contributed to his tragic downfall. Hoffman's struggle with addiction started early in his career, but after rehab he stayed clean for over 20 years through much of his adult life. It seemed he had finally conquered his demons. He built a thriving career, earning critical acclaim and respect across Hollywood. Yet even after 2 decades of sobriety, addiction still held its grip. In 2013, Hoffman relapsed, starting with prescription pills that quickly escalated to heroin. His relapse shocked those closest to him, and although he sought help by entering rehab again, the addiction proved too powerful to beat. In February 2014, the world was shaken by the news of Hoffman's passing. He was discovered in his New York City apartment with a syringe in his arm and several bags of heroin nearby. The official cause of death was acute mixed drug intoxication, a heartbreaking end to a life marked by extraordinary talent and promise.
Which Hollywood story shocked you the most? Drop a comment with 1 if you relate to the story above, or 0 if you see it differently. If this video touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so